Dr. Werner claims he has lived without solid food for more than 2 decades. A few years after he stopped eating, he underwent a comprehensive medical examination. His case helps explain why the scientific community has been reluctant to publicize the results of studies like these.
I was kept under 24-hour video observation. It was a 10-day experiment, and they collected a lot of data every single day. And I, too, was very interested in the absolutely conventional, solid, rigorous and unbiased approach to this issue, because I needed to address the questions generated by this phenomenon. My name is Michael Werner. I underwent the 21-day Breatharian process in January of 2001, and I have not gone back to eating since. I'm a scientist, and I ask myself, how is this possible? What do I say to colleagues or in scientific circles? Am I making a fool of myself? I want people to take me seriously. This all originated as a New Age thing, which I don't always understand nor always agree with. A stubborn materialist might well say, count me out, but I can't change the way it is. My first encounter was completely unexpected. 6 years ago, my son was being married and an old family friend was staying with us. She wasn't eating, and we asked her if there's anything wrong. Nothing. She claimed to have simply converted to pranic feeding. Well, that blew my mind. Stirred me up emotionally, got me thinking, and then she told me about a book by Jess Muheen. I read it, but I wasn't fascinated, to say the least. But half a year later, I decided to put it to the test, and I undertook the ordeal of the 21-day process myself. And I have lived this way ever since. I was highly skeptical about the way the book put it, and I never experienced any heavenly brotherhoods working in me, at least not directly. But on the third night, I must also admit that I did indeed experience an undeniable change. When I awoke on day 4, I knew unequivocally that I was no longer fasting. It was evident. It simply was. It was as if I had eaten a full meal and I required no more.
I wasn't exactly euphoric about this whole experiment, but I understood that he was going to do it. Because he's a searcher and is interested in things that push the bounds of the normal, both in terms of himself and in general.
And what are your meals like?
Our meals consist of me eating the things normally eaten by people, and my husband sitting there having something to drink. That's the social aspect. You come together for a meal, you talk, you drink. He does everything except eat.
And what kind of an eater was he before?
Big eater. He totally enjoyed eating.
You know, I simply feel good living without food. It does me good. It's what I experience, and not eating is simply the price I must pay to attain this state. I feel healthy, I'm in good shape, and I think I can do more than I used to in terms of strength and endurance. I experience that the more I push my body, the stronger I get. My hair is growing, my beard is growing, my fingernails too. Where does it come from? Normally you think, when I eat food, I take in substances and I digest them, breaking them down in little Lego blocks, which I reassemble, and then my body is happy and content. And certainly there's some truth to that. The question, though, is, aren't there other ways of doing this?
My name is Thomas Stokely, and I would say I'm one of Michael Werner's critical friends. I follow his strange way of life, as I refer to it, with skepticism but great interest as well. I find it extremely fascinating.
When a scientist hears about something like Breatharianism, he should be eager to study it and ask, what's going on? How can this be?
That's why I wanted to work with Michael Werner, to come up with sound scientific proof.
We both knew that if we spoke of pranic feeding or Breatharianism, it would make things very hard to receive approval.
But I was surprised at how powerful their opposition and defensiveness to these new ideas turned out to be.
We submitted our study to the ethics committee, and it took 2 years to be approved. The experiment took place a year and a half ago. 10 days under rigorously monitored conditions. They made absolutely sure I wouldn't be able to eat or leave. My room was in an intensive care unit with the window nailed shut. And they had the variables completely under control and established a rigorous, solid experimental design, and therefore evaluating the data wasn't really all that complicated. One of my requirements was that they publish the findings no matter what. But in fact, today, 1.5 years later, the results still haven't been published. I found the results myself rather surprising, rather disappointing. I'd lost some weight during the 10 days.
He lost a little weight during that time, but it was still an incredible accomplishment because the weight he lost was minimal. They did, however, register an increase in ketone bodies, and that is an indication of fasting.
I can only surmise why this might have occurred. The enclosed conditions were indeed difficult and clearly unnatural because for 10 days I was breathing only air from the air conditioner, and that really felt all wrong. We're planning a second experiment, and I hope we can avoid that.
2 years after our first encounter, I visit Dr. Werner at Lake Neuchâtel, where he's on vacation. Not much has changed. He still isn't eating. The burn study still hasn't been published, but at the University of Prague, he has undergone another experiment.
The study in Prague came about because the Bern study still had not been published. So I said, let's move on, start over again. And we all agreed from the outset, once again, that anything we documented would indeed be published, no matter the results. And at the end of the experiment, when all the results were in, the man in charge of the study once again said, we're not publishing it. He gave no explanation. That's how the world of science reacts. It says, either he's a lunatic, and we have a problem, or he's right, and then we also have a problem. So let's just drop it.
The man in charge of the study in Prague turned me down repeatedly, refusing to comment on camera. Same with the head physician in Bern.
Ultimately, they also see it as a threat to the worldview of allopathic medicine. The representatives of allopathic medicine are not reacting with appropriate scientific curiosity as one might expect from a physicist or a chemist. If a physicist says swans are white, that's a hypothesis. If they find 100,000 white swans, it's still a hypothesis. When they find the first black swan, they test it to see if it's died. And if it's real, end of hypothesis. Disproven with this single black swan.
You're right. If this were in principle possible, whether just one man could do it or 100,000, it would turn things on their head. Scientific rigor would indeed require that we re-examine the way we think.
In late 2008, the Bern study is published after all. Conclusion: Dr. Werner was only in a fasting state during the study. The Prague study hasn't been disclosed.
I'm not saying people you eat too much, you have to cut back, that you must eat only healthy foods. My message is conscious eating and, above all, conscious being. Ultimately, it's not about eating at all. Other forms of energy do exist. If people will only open themselves up to this, unbelievable things become possible. Things science cannot yet explain. For example, that humans don't need to eat.
There are plenty of references, and in physics they have gone to the next level. There, the paradigm shift has already taken place.
To understand how this is physically possible, let's take a look into the microscopic world.
Classical physics is the everyday view of the world with things moving around, exerting forces on each other, and that doesn't explain the behaviour of atoms and so on very well. So eventually what we call the quantum theory was devised, and quantum mechanics seems to get into problems unless you take mind or consciousness into account. I suspect that Eastern philosophy has the right, is broadly speaking on the right grounds, and their mind is more fundamental.
We are shocked to find that what the ancient mystics used to say, consciousness is the ground of being, is the correct view of the world, not the one that science has proposed for the last and accepted for the last 400 years.
What we call the mind has the power to control and even protect that which we call matter, or body. The time is now right for this to become common knowledge. There are experiments, including scientific ones, that clearly show we can influence matter with our minds. For example, the pair experiments at Princeton University. There they set up a system with many little balls. These balls cascade over a structure and are distributed into an array of pockets with the so-called Gaussian distribution, if that is, no external influence is exerted upon them. And the people, normal people off the street with no particular abilities, they were given the task of influencing this normal distribution, of pushing the balls either more to the left or to right. And it worked.
What is exciting here is that we can go into a laboratory, a physical science laboratory, and generate effects that relate to matters of the spirit, of the soul, of the will, and affect balls coming down a cascade, and affect bits coming out of a little microelectronic box.
All of the results that we claim effects on are the result of many tens of thousands or even millions of repeated trials. And we're seeing again and again and again this shift in the direction of intention. It's clearly a real effect. We have no doubt of that.
But what comes out of this, and I think this is the excitement, is that the mind is much more powerful than that. The mind is not only observing, the mind is creating. The mind is capable of producing effects. And that's mind-blowing, if you excuse me.
As soon as we abandon the idea that the mind is confined to the inside of the head, if we accept that the mind depends on fields which extend far beyond the head, then there's no problem in accepting these phenomena. They fit into an enlarged view of the mind. They're just the kind of thing we would expect if the mind extends beyond the brain.
The instant the possibility arises that mind might be non-local, that it's not just in there, but it spreads out a little bit, well, how far does it go? And the answer is it goes everywhere. It's connected to the entire universe. And we really should begin to think in terms of a connection to everything. We live in a distributed mind. It's like a little bit like looking out over an ocean where there are waves popping up. Each peak on those waves that pop up is like an individual. Feels separate, but at a deeper level, there's actually connectivity with all the rest of it.
That is an extremely important message of the new science. New science is telling us that we are one, literally, underneath our separateness. Now it says that it's stupid to be violent, and it is stupid not to love, because we are connected.
We are part of the world. We're not merely passive observers. We create the world, each of us to a very tiny degree, but collectively to a significant extent. The world is a construction of human consciousness.
I'm not saying stop eating and drinking. That's not the point. I'm just saying that through the phenomenon of breatharianism, a lot of people are coming to a critical reevaluation of their relationship to matter in general. And that includes eating and drinking.
We have to hypothesize alternative forms, alternative source of energy, and that is the real thing which I'm looking at. I'm not looking at this one case. I'm looking the force behind that, and that is really going to change the future of mankind. And I'm pretty sure. Take it from me.
Dr. Werner is the author of the book Life from Light, in which he details his personal journey, philosophy, and the principles behind his practice. Through his publication and public profile, he has become a notable figure within the global Breatharian community.